I know, the beginning is boring. It's always boring. But this is where it gets interesting. Talking about the patterns in classical China. What is a dynasty? A dynasty is basically a family of kings to where when one died, he was quickly replaced with another. China had many dynasties that I could talk about all day. But there were three main dynasties that I really like to get to talk about. The first dynasty up is the Zhao dynasty, founded by Zhao Wu. This dynasty lasted a long time, 800 years in fact, from 770 BCE to 221 BCE, and was the dynasty Confucius, the founder of Confucianism, was talked about. This dynasty was very strong, but was ended by the state of Qin and its abilities to control its vessels. Second, we have the Qin dynasty, lasted from 221 BCE to 202 BCE. This dynasty was in power for a very short time. Some things the dynasty did were very good to China, but the most distinctive thing the dynasty did was build the Great Wall of China. The dynasty was ended by massive revolts from peasants, and one peasant leader defeated other opponents and established a new dynasty called the Han Dynasty. The Han Dynasty was founded by Liu Bang, the peasant leader who won the Qing Dynasty massive revolts. This dynasty lasted for 400 years, from 202 BCE to 220 CE. The dynasty was known for its workings of the state bureaucracy and also linked to the government under Confucian philosophy and had a very strong government, but came to an end at the Battle of Red Cliffs. Enough with all that dynasty stuff. Let's move on to religion in classical China. There are three main religions in China: Confucianism, legalism, and Taoism. Confucianism was founded by Confucius. Confucianism was a system of philosophical and ethical teachings. Legalism was founded by or influenced by Shang Yang. Legalism is the dependence of moral law over one's personal faith. Taoism was founded by Laozi. Taoism is a Chinese philosophy based on the writings of Laozi. Let's move on to the economy and society in China. The economy in China was very well established, and so was the society in China. The Confucian society helped keep China in line and kept everything how it needed to be. The trade in China was important during the Zhao and Han dynasty. Trade focused mainly on luxury items for the upper class. Technology in China was relatively advanced for its time, helping increase the size of the population in the countryside with better tools and seeds. Well, this is all for classical civilizations in China. Now I'm going to pass it off to my boy JM with classical civilizations in India.
Moving on from the last chapter, we are now going to be focusing on the classical civilizations of India. Unlike China, which focused on politics and or philosophies, India focused more on a religious and or social structure. Because of this, India had a less cohesive political structure, but similar to China, it had an agricultural society, male ownership, a patriarchy, and was focused on trade. Because of its natural geography, it was closer to other civilizations and was influenced by the Middle East/Mediterranean and the other Persian empires, which eventually spilled over. Because of this, they had to react and adapt. Topographically, the civilizations passed through the Himalayas linked India. Because of this, they were somewhat set apart, which proved to show a political unity difficulty. Two river civilizations, the Indus and Ganges, existed along with a mountainous north herding society. Separate regions such as this led to economic diversity, racial differences, and language differences. There was an unstable monsoon climate here, but it helped with agriculture, which in turn supported a large population. Somewhere along the line, there were also Aryan migrants who were hunting and herding peoples. These Aryans settled into tightly knit villages. Their families were patriarchal, connected along generations, and they had created social classes. These classes became a popular caste system. They also brought a polytheistic religion, which seems to have some effect on Hinduism and other similar religions. Some eventual patterns showed up between the now 16 major states, Some were monarchies or republics dominated by warriors or priests in the previous caste system. Eras of these states usually went hand in hand with invaders. Without going into too much detail, some powerful states became hungry, which included the Maryans and Guptas. They gained power through either military power or religious reasons and started a golden age. However, they are not well versed in maintaining a stable political system. Regardless of this, they made many advances in their respective religions, such as Hinduism or Buddhism, along with advances in cultural, science, math, art, and the economy.
It's time for Chapter 4, Classical Civilizations in the Mediterranean and Middle East. This chapter takes place from about 800 BC to the fall of the Roman Empire in 476 CE, and talks mainly about Greece and Rome. Greece's big thing during this period was existing where the Persian Empire wanted to, and staying there for a good bit. Rome was Rome, so they had a lot of big things. So, to begin, Persia. After the fall of the Egyptian and Hittite empires, Cyrus the Great came around in 550 BC and was like, I think I'll start Persia today. And so he did. Persia politically was tolerant, authoritarian, which meant basically the rulers had the mindset of I am the boss and no one else is the boss. They were very influential in the road trip department, building roads, highways, and inns, and also there was this thing called Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was one of the first monotheistic religions, and its rules were essentially there's good and there's bad. If you're good, you can go to the House of Song, and if you're bad, you may have eternal pain. So that was pretty cool. Thanks, Persia. Next up is Greece. Greece was organized into fairly independent city-states, as uniting the entire area was difficult due to all of the mountains. They created the Olympics, an event honoring fighting, but in a together way. They defeated Persian invasion, which Persia was pretty bummed about, and the strongest city-states were Sparta, which was strong militarily, and Athens, which was down to let its people create stuff and get power through innovation. You do you, Athens. Despite their differences, both Athens and Sparta liked to have slaves. During Greece's height in the 400s BCE, a guy named Pericles came along and told everybody that Greece has a lot of potential, so why don't we work together and be strong in the Spartathens way, or Athartan way, or whatever floats your trireme. This worked pretty well. So well, in fact, that Sparta and Athens went into the 27-year Peloponnesian War. So after that, Greece wasn't that strong because its strongest areas had just javelined each other for almost 3 decades, so they were Macedonianly conquered by Macedonian conquerors, beginning the Hellenistic period. Finally, Rome! Oh, Rome! What you up to, Rome? Well, Rome is so strong. They have a strong military. They won the Punic Wars. Chariots. They wrote the 12 Tables. Chariots. So strong. Too strong. Self-proclaimed dictator for life Julius Caesar came along, and he was good at killing but bad at chillin', so his friends stabbed him. At this point, Rome started having emperors, and they began to grow again. But they were kind of like that one dad who wants to be really cool, so they let anything happen. They let a bunch more people in, and some of those people weren't down with the town, so Rome got invaded. Now, let's talk about politics during this time. The main problem people faced was deciding who had power, the government or the people. In Greece, they experimented with democracies. To make sure citizens didn't do whatever they wanted, they decided to choose someone to be the leader. However, a lot of the time leaders would like having all that power, so things got corrupt! So they introduced checks and balances, which made things kind of work like this. In Rome, to keep one person from having all the power, they created a senate and introduced a law code called the 12 Tables, so all the basic morals wouldn't change. This worked pretty well, but sometimes people wouldn't listen. At one point, the 12 tables, which were etched into gold, were melted, so at least Rome taught us not to let inanimate objects completely control government. Religion at this time was also experimented with. Greek mythology was heavily based on a mystical system of many gods, which was great for explaining science, but bad for telling people how to be good people, so philosophers were extremely influential to Greek ethics. Rome was pretty chill with people doing their own thing, but politically they were Christian. Society was pretty consistently based on agriculture, trade, and slaves. Merchants had the freedom to make a living and do their own thing in this area, so that was better than their situation in China, but their role still wasn't completely respected and considered necessary. Women in Rome had a lot of freedom, just they were legally controlled by the head of the family, who would be a man. If you think that's crappy, in Greece, women couldn't even leave the house without a man's permission and accompaniment, and it would usually be only allowed for very specific and rare circumstances. So, in summary, Greece and Rome were sort of like trial and error empires. They aren't as strong now as they used to be, but their influence provides our current systems with a wide variety of different ways of ruling, possible outcomes, and ways to handle large-scale situations. Classical civilizations in the Mediterranean and Middle East aren't what they used to be, but they can be credited as a significant reference for society throughout the world today.
Welcome to AP World History, in which we shall talk about Chapter 5, the directions, diversities, and declines of empires by 500 CE. During this era, the three great civilizations faced expansion challenges, and integration challenges, and mainland challenges. China faced these challenges by growing a more centralized government. India used key religious values, and the Mediterranean became more local and diverse. Of course, during the development of these three civilizations, changes occurred in other parts of the world, such as empires in North Africa, major new agricultural advancements within sub-Saharan Africa, Japan advancements, and the first American civilizations, the Olmecs. And many of you might know the Olmec's offspring, the Mayans and the Incans. During this era, the three great civilizations collapsed around 200 to 600 CE. The systems of China collapsed when intellectual activity decreased, the government had a harder time governing, and the burden feelings became even more burdened, and some even had to sell their children. India collapsed because they couldn't control the local princesses, invaders, and there were a new threat from Northwest Islam, and they reacted by emphasizing on religion, but lost further advancement on sciences and mathematics. The Rome decline was the most serious. It had many systems, declining population, trouble recruiting for the army, weak emperors. Rome's fall can be blamed on a moral and political decay and natural forces that they just couldn't stop. Of course, during this time, the religious map of the world changed. Christianity became widespread in the Mediterranean because of Rome's decline, and people found solace in this new religion. In Southeastern Asia, Buddhism flourished because of China's decline. And in the early 7th century, Islam surfaced and became a dynamic force in the next few centuries. After Islam, there were no new major religions and the religious map was pretty much set. Trade and travel spread these religions and caused a greater interest in spirituality. And because of these new major monotheistic religions, polytheistic and animism beliefs eventually declined. During this era, the three civilizations collapsed. There were three major themes for world history. The three civilizations' stacks of rebuilding and reviving themselves. How the new empires reacted to the new religious maps and how they integrated these changes. And the agriculture and advancements and the creations of new civilizations prepared most parts of the world for upcoming future new developments. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson because I certainly did.